here by 6:30.
That's my only, yeah.
So let's target that anyway.
All right.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order. First up is to approve minutes from February 21st, 2013. Entertain a motion to do so.
So moved.
Any discussion, changes, amendments? Nope.
Sunday. Which date was it?
This is February 21st.
21st, okay.
2/21. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Get your line space there, John. Al, you didn't get a chance to print out the 2:28 minutes, did you?
That's,
Did you email them to you?
I just did like 5 minutes ago.
oh no, that's not the minute.
I've got them right here.
Okay, good.
So
That was good.
we can sign it anyway.
Yeah.
Next up is to approve the Selectmen's meeting minutes from February 28th, 2013.
So moved.
You guys just got a chance to review these now.
I went through it. Yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whoa.
Ellie, you don't by chance have a envelope for our sealing the non-publics? That'd be great.
Just bring it on the website?
Yep. I have the non-public session minutes from 2:28. When we make a motion to seal these, and we did make a motion to seal these, that is approving the minutes, and we did review them that night in session, so they're ready to go. We just need to seal them for the file, so
Yep.
we can do that with those. Initial seal envelope. Thanks,
Yeah.
That non-public session was to discuss the hiring of a public employee. And next up, we have public comments. Elle?
I just wanted to make sure that people know that the town reports are here. There's a box in the library, there's some out here in the foyer, and I will also be taking some down to the elections on Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
And you should thank Jerry's mother for going to get one.
How many copies we got?
We got 300 copies. And if we need to get more, it's not that long of a process to get.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's in with the other material. Wrote the date on the outside of it. Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the police report.
How's it going, Chief?
It's going.
Good.
Okay, we took there's a dog had bit somebody in town. It was referred to our animal control officer, and it doesn't appear there's very much to it. The dog was up on the shots. Just a normal routine. Dogs are quarantined for 10 days and should be fine. Motor vehicle accident, car off the road, into the trees on Switchback Way, and the driver had left, and so it caused a little bit of a search looking in the woods and whatnot, and consequently, some drugs were found in the car, and the next morning I caught up the driver who was charged with possession of illegal drugs. We had a tractor trailer that broke down up the notch. It was in the traffic. We called for a worker that handles tow trucks. We assisted the fire company with a 911 call on residents where a CO2 detector was going off. We had 2 false burglar alarms. Another vehicle that went over the stolen bank and we'll switch back. And not much to it, just minor damage. We took a report from the Department of Transportation. They had some signs stolen from their signage that they had up along Route 16. We took a complaint of a vehicle parked in a cul-de-sac during the snowstorm while it was snowing, and the highway department was out, practically out. We'd been there all day, couldn't get hold of it, didn't know who it was. In addition, there were no plates on the car, so that car was towed. We had an ox truck that had broken down up the notch. We were able to get that help. We have a family that's out of town or watching our house. We had a motor vehicle Mexican standoff on Covered Bridge.
Oh, God.
And you know, what happened is a truck from pickup truck from Maine, and it was a car, and the car was a town resident, and just it's the kind of people that we have. I went to the town person. I said, "Would you mind taking the high road, backing up?" And even though you were right, so she said yes. And you know, I'm appreciative of stuff like that because it makes my job easier, and then the problems resolved.
Oh, boy. Let me see.
Took a complaint of a rabid fox.
Where?
That's not.
That's 2 this winter.
Yeah, fairly recent too. Well, that's 2. No, there was a raccoon that was reported on Reserve Hill Road about a month ago. That was going on arrival. We took a report of a suspicious vehicle on the road. That turned out to be some Europeans that were vacationing. They wanted to pull over and get some sleep, but the residents close by didn't know what it was. So we just kind of showed them where a better place to park would be. This is the Bob Jackson ambulance with a skier that had dislocated her hip on the ski trail. Took a 3-car motor vehicle accident at Dana Place on 16. We assisted a family that Irvine had gotten into the kitchen. Not as fun as the next one. We responded to a domestic in a Buckham Hotel, and the 911 hang-up that was in the style.
Very good.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next up, we have road agent's report. Jay just submitted his report. Brings us to building matters. First up, we have Eagle Mountain House, map B3 Lot 2, and entertain a motion to approve the building permit. And he is recommending approval.
Was there the application because they found that it was going to be more costly than they anticipated?
And you've sent that around, and, yeah. And the recommendation by the inspectors to approve that.
Yeah, it's
Over 10 now.
it's $12,000 in value.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Eagle Mountain House, map B3, lot 2, water damage to the roof, building permit application.
Second.
Any more discussion on this one? All those in favor?
All right?
Aye. Next up, we have application for renovate a basement for Wentworth, map B2 lot 106. Entertain a motion to approve the building permit.
Second?
This one Andy has reviewed and is recommending approval. The work appears to already have begun. I've had discussions with the contractor regarding concerns about fill being placed in the flood area. I've been assured that the work in the basement will not impact the flood capacity of this location.
What's the cost estimate?
I think it was $14,000.
Okay.
It's by the signature page. Go by the yellow slip that says sign.
$14,000 was the estimate on the work. Any more discussion? No. All those in favor?
All right?
Aye. Next up, we have a building permit for a new kitchen upgrade, electrical and plumbing for Appleton Boynton, map B4, lot 48. I'd entertain a motion to approve the building permit.
So moved.
Second. Here you go.
This one value is over $30,000 anyway, and Andy is recommending approval. Work has begun on this project. The contractor, the past building inspector at Brownfield, contacted me once the work was underway. So it seems like Andy's already had discussions with him and seems to be okay with the building permit as it is. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
All right.
Next up, we have building permit application for Jeff Chapman, map R17, lot 46, for construction of a new single-family home with 24 by 28 feet with a 20 by 32 foot garage. Entertain a motion to approve.
Second?
Andy is recommending approval of this. He's currently reviewing the submitted building plans to assure compliance with the state building code.
Amy happened to be here when the gentleman came in to submit that. That's why you guys didn't get it, because he type questions that Andy answered right there on some of the things on the application, so that was very good.
That's good timing then. Any questions? All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Next up, we have Uri information update. I guess this is pretty much just a FYI for us. I guess Andy went up to do an inspection on the process and met with installers of the PV system. Several unlicensed tradespeople were on site installing the system. I enlisted the assistance of the state electrical inspector, who issued verbal warnings and required them to leave the site until proper licenses were obtained. I have since received the appropriate licensure information. I am currently waiting for a stamped letter certifying that this system will not compromise the existing lightly framed roof structure. The installers assure me that this review has already been completed. During the site visit, it was discovered that the installer of the PV system was also performing plumbing work without a license. They will be sending a state licensed master plumber to complete the work and take responsibility for the work that has been done to date. So it seems as though on this one,
His biggest concern was the load on the roof, making sure that it was going to be able to handle what they got for panels.
but it seems as though the contractors up there are cooperating, and we don't need to be considering a stop work order or anything at this point in time. So. Missing from the agenda as item F would be George Howard's response to the building inspector's comments from the December 20th Selectmen's meeting. George, if you'd like, I'd be happy just to read the letter.
Sure, go ahead.
do you want to come up? Does he want to come up?
If you want to come up, you can. If you don't, you're good.
Unless you want me to, I can.
Don't need you at this point. Okay. I'll read your letter, and if you have any further comments you'd like to make or discussion, then we can go from there. Gentlemen, this letter is in response to the building inspector comments at the December 20th Selectmen's meeting. I built my home in 2009 and am quite familiar with the application, permitting, and inspection process in the town. I complied with them with no comments received from the inspector or the town. The process has not changed when I built my garage. Example, i.e. application, permitting, and inspecting process. Noteworthy, though, the shortcomings of the initial process remained. Addressing the inspector's specific comments. Number one, I agree we worked well together, not only at first, but from my perspective through the building process. Number two, we did encounter inclement weather during the site preparation and framing the footings, which made it difficult to provide the inspector with my planned 24-hour notification. See my permit application dated August 18, 2011. When favorable weather broke, the cement contractor notified me he was on the way. I called the inspector, receiving as normal his voicemail, where I left the information. The inspector arrived shortly thereafter and observed as the footings were starting to be poured. The inspector, the contractor who was well known to the inspector, and I discussed the project. No comments or documentation was provided by the inspector. A similar shortcoming I encountered when I built my house. In this case, the inspector asked if I would take photos of the footings before being poured, which I did. However, they were never requested, nor any documentation provided of this phase of the construction. Number three, the inspector noted he was supposed to inspect several times throughout the process, but these inspections were missed. A, the building permit I received called for inspection of the footings before being poured, a rough inspection that is performed before any drywall, frame coverings, and insulation is installed. The inspection of the frame and masonry was not considered applicable for the garage. Construction on my garage was never planned, nor did it proceed beyond the rough-in stage. No wall, ceiling, or floor coverings were planned or completed, hence the structure remained at the rough-in stage. The only electrical wiring installed was for lights and power for the door openers, with all wiring and fixtures remaining completely exposed. The building was completed in December 2011. Number 4, at a planning board meeting in January 2012, I do not recall the date, I met the inspector and discussed arranging for the inspection. I do not recall if we set a date or we would call to arrange one, but the need for inspection was known, as well as that it was not a time-critical issue as the construction was complete. 5, I attempted to arrange an inspection on other occasions, but do not know an actual number. On one occasion, I contacted the town office to arrange for the inspection and advised to call the inspector direct, which I did, but found his voicemail box full. I advised the town of this, to which an email was sent by the town for the inspector to contact me. However, the inspector did not, I did not receive a call. The last effort to complete the inspection was in the May time frame. I talked with the inspector at the conclusion of the Selectmen's meeting and decided to schedule for the following Monday at 10 a.m., which I later confirmed on his voicemail. The day of the inspection, I called him at 10:15 or thereabout, again via voicemail to confirm the planned inspection. Shortly after, I received a call saying that he had a conflict and would reschedule. I have not received any further communications. 7, some general observations. A, the inspector related his concern for any liability he may incur. Both state law and our zoning ordinance relieve town officials from being personally liable in the administration of their duties. B, the absence of any administrative procedures, checklists of inspection requirements, or documentation of inspections seems a process by word of mouth, as indicated by the absence of documentation and the only inspector's reflection at the meeting. Thus, as a result of any procedural documents, etc., leaves the homeowner at the whim of the inspector. Further, there appears no financial accountability, as evidenced in the inspection fee for my garage. The $95 all went to the general fund. C, finally, from my perspective, the inference of the discussion was that I was intentionally avoided the inspection process, which is absolutely wrong, and I strongly object. Regards, George Howard. Georgia, do you have any further to add?
No, that's all. It's the best I could muscle it. But thanks.
Thank you, George. Anything else?
No, I remember the meeting well and the questions that we had, and I think there's plenty here that we need to make sure gets streamlined in the future.
It is disappointing not to have the documentation to go with that stuff. I think that's, I think we want to make sure that it doesn't happen with future building inspections. I think anything should be documented, be at least receive some piece of paper.
Which would be a better process. I would note that Andy seems to be getting better at documenting. Certainly the last number of building applications we've seen as having well documented, and hopefully we're in the process of correcting that aspect of things, George.
I'm done the building.
Now that you're done, we're going to get a system that's...
Yeah,
Well,
that's the last word.
apologies for the rough time you had of it. It's not the design of the process, but we're glad you got a good building out of it.
Worked out well.
Good.
We have an elderly exemption tax abatement request from Administrative Assistant Receptionist Ella Cressy for abatement for 2012 tax year court-ordered exemption. We are familiar with this case, so I would entertain a motion to abate elderly exemption abatement for map B10, lot 123, exemption in the amount of $23,100, and the actual abatement amount of $234.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The green form that's attached that also needs to be signed and dated.
Thank you.
fellow, thanks for the work that you did to facilitate that. It's one more thing that's been added to a very busy schedule, so nice job on that. Next up, under new business, we have a letter from Ann Peterson. I'll read the letter in minutes. Dear Selectman, last fall on a Sunday, I was working in the lower field when I saw a dark pickup truck with plow drive up the driveway. The driver did not stop, but drove around the barn and eventually drove out the driveway again, passing me by. I later found out it was Jerry Doherty, chairman of the Selectmen, and that he was there to inspect my manure pile. What I would like to know is what right he had to come on my property without first asking permission, particularly since I was standing in full view, and by what ordinance or suspected violation thereof he was inspecting my manure pile. I feel this was taking extreme advantage and abusive use of his position as selectman. Other town representatives ask permission before entering someone's property. Ann Peterson. That day, I do not recall the actual date, but it was on a Sunday. That was when Bob Davis and had come before us asking us to take action against John Bashir's manure pile. At that point in time, John Bashir's manure pile had already been moved, but Bob Davis had requested that one of us accompany him to inspect John's pile, his pile, and Ann Peterson's pile of manure. That morning I met with Bob Davis on his property to review his manure pile, and he asked me if I would accompany him up to Ann Peterson's property to see hers. And these were not formal inspections. This was really just a courtesy that I'd gone out to meet with Bob so he could show me what the process for handling his manure pile and Ann Peterson's manure pile was. So I followed Bob up to Ann Peterson's house and did in fact pull onto her property and met with a gentleman who works with Ann Peterson up there, Bob. I don't know what Bob's last name is, but introduced myself, or Bob introduced me to him, and I told him I was there to take a look at his manure pile and to see what their practice was in dealing with it. Had a nice conversation with them, and then went and left the property. And that's the long and the short of that.
Well, I remember the incident because I was also scheduled to go. And ended up with a family commitment that kept me from going. And I seem to recall that when I asked Bob at the meeting if we would have a right to go on the property, his response was, well, yeah, it's no big deal, and you can practically see it from the road. So I'm surprised that this is being sent to us dated March 5th. I mean, it sure seems like it was all open and transparent. So Bob was with you, right?
He was with me. He was the one that invited me to go up. As I said, I had gone up. Bob Davis was, and he introduced me to her employee. The gentleman introduced himself as Bob. Somebody said I rent from Ann Peterson, and would be glad to show you, how we deal with our manure pile up here. Took a quick look at it, thanked him, and turned around and left the property. So, if that caused any offense to Ms. Peterson, I do apologize, but again, I was not there on official business as much as paying a courtesy call to Bob Davis to see how they handled their manure piles.
And we were requested to do that at the meeting by Bob. That was the meeting that both he and John were at. So, well, it's a little disappointing, but
Probably, I thought maybe it'd be a good idea, maybe just to, maybe in the future, to get permission from Ann, just to let her know that you're coming on her property.
no doubt, yeah, in retrospect.
Yeah.
I mean, I pulled up the driveway following Bob Davis. I saw Ann in her field. She was all the way across her field. And came onto the property, was introduced to a person who said they were her tenant. So, I mean, I'm not sure what more could have done to have facilitated the process, but. Next up, we have a contract with Avatar Terra Map Division renewal for tax mapping services for 2013. I don't know if you've reviewed the contract, but this is, it automatically renews, but it's something we should probably make a motion to renew anyway, just to have a record of it. We don't obviously have to renew it every year, but unless we don't renew it, unless we don't take action, it automatically renews. But so, probably smart to entertain a motion to approve the tax map division map maintenance renewal agreement.
So move.
Second?
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Bill, you're asking permission to look into the cost to have Jackson's map available to view online.
And there's been a request in the last couple of months as to whether or not they will be or can be available to view online, saving people a trip to the office. I don't know what the costs involved are. Before I say yes, I'd like to see if there are costs.
That seems to make sense to me. John, good with that?
Yeah.
Thanks, Al.
Question on the floor.
Marla?
Saco Valley Land Trust came up and gave a nice demonstration here one day, and were offering services to the town. And I think at that point in time, there was just a question of, do the people who do our land assessments, those maps, do they offer any of the same services and the same data before we went and duplicated? Did anyone look at that? That's my question.
We haven't looked into that yet, but
Okay.
we're hoping to kind of incorporate that into the build-out analysis that might be done for the master plan and to try to figure out everything in regards to that.
Thank you.
Atlantic Recycling, quote for new Jackson roll-off container. John did give me a quote for the roll-off container that we need to replace at the transfer station. The quote is for $7,550. It's a little bit less than the $10,000 we were anticipating, so that looks good to me. I would suggest that we wait until after town meeting for the funds to be approved and go from there.
Any idea why it's so much less than the 10 we thought?
Well, before, when John had looked into it, it was a estimate, not a formal estimate. It was just a verbal estimate more than anything. So the formal estimates come in, slightly below, which is typical to see in that type of situation.
Yeah.
Usually estimate a little bit high, so you get yourself in trouble for that. So.
Great. Well, that's good news.
Good. So, keep on that.
Just information for now. I really think we should wait until the money's approved before it's spent for that. Next up on the agenda, Frank Benesh, the town of Jackson. Wanted to bring you guys up to speed on where that is. We have a court appearance scheduled for 9 a.m. in Ossipee. And there's about a half-hour hearing scheduled to make oral arguments to consider temporary orders is the long and the short of that. I've been very involved with Peter Malia, Town Council, and Bill Kelly over the past week, arranging for this, and wanted to bring you guys up to speed and entertain any questions you might have at this point in regards to it.
Is it worth bringing some pictures or video of the situation for that hearing, or is it not necessary at this point?
That's the one question I forgot to ask Peter when I talked to him this afternoon. I was actually anticipating another call back from him and haven't heard one yet. But I think it would probably at least make sense to have them prepared in case it would make sense to have them there. And I was actually planning on taking some video tomorrow morning when the school arrives to take some video then and to take some pictures of the settings there. Deb?
Are there architectural drawings that the town has of that plat?
There are, and I was planning on preparing those for Peter anyway to bring with us on Monday. Monday is going to be a relatively short hearing, and most of the evidence and things like that probably really won't be considered much, but it certainly would make sense to have those things available in case we do need them. Bill, did you want to add anything?
Well, I'd love to add a lot, but I'm not going to add a lot. It's been a trying week, to say the least. There is 2 points I'd like, I don't know whether it's proper to do it at this point.
I think it certainly
There's
would
2
be.
points I'd like to bring forward to you. Regardless of how this comes up, I guess once we get through next week, we'll know. But I think I would very much like to address this whole thing, because in the research I've done as late as this afternoon, I took an oath of office to uphold the rules and regulations incumbent upon me as moderator. RSA 42:C basically states if I do not uphold those rules, and this is what was advised to us back several years ago, I can be found in violation and the Superior Court judge can remove me from office. So hence, a person could file a complaint by us not adhering to the ordinance that was passed at a town meeting, a unanimous vote. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here. So on one hand, I'm mandated to enforce it. On the other hand, several years ago, I find out that it's potentially unconstitutional if it's challenged. At the recommendation of the AG's office and the Secretary of State's office at that time, my assistant was very present. They said a very good compromise that satisfies everybody is what we call the 200-foot rule. I didn't drag this out of the air. I did that. I've done it, and here we go. So I guess I want to go on record. Depending on how we do this, we either rescind that ordinance or we demand that the state legislature address this RSA that's still on the books and get this squared away before we go through another election. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating, as you guys very well know. And I didn't do 45 years to get accused of all the things that I've been accused of, and I'm pretty darn upset about it. I know you guys have been on the same record, and here we are, we have to defend an ordinance, we try to compromise, and that's wrong. So somebody needs to say what's right, and I look to the court, I look to the New Hampshire legislature and the Attorney General himself to try to rectify this.
And that's really been, Bill, our position all along. We have an ordinance that the town adopted in 1987. It's still a law of New Hampshire. And, as you pointed out, it does say right in that RSA that it's a violation not to adhere to it. I would, again, just echo that, I don't see that we have any other option other than to do that. And we have been saying that, it would, at this point, our only option is to follow the law. If the courts order us to do something different, or the Attorney General asks us to do something different, we will abide by that. But short of that, we don't have any other options.
I agree. That's one of the, just to be clear, I'm very much in favor of people having constitutional rights. The problem is I have a job to do in an oath of office. And one of the reasons I said let the judge decide on this thing was the simple reason that it is very contradictory at the state level. And somebody needs to take a stand and get this resolved.
Well, I've learned a lot about it this week, Bill. It's not just the state of New Hampshire.
No, I know.
There's 39 other states in the country that struggle with the same type of laws. And the constitutional rights that are being balanced here is basically the right to free speech versus the right to vote. And the Supreme Court has ruled on that to say that under circumstances to a given distance, the right to vote supersedes the right to free speech. And, we've prepared a pretty good defense of that. At this point, we welcome for the court to make a decision on it, and we'll abide by that moving forward.
Exactly. So, other than that, unless you guys have any questions of any of the things we've done,
Just say logistically, I believe, Bill, you and I are planning to go down to the
Monday morning.
Monday morning to the courthouse to hear the case with counsel. Peter is preparing tomorrow. He's spending most of the day tomorrow preparing for it. And to correct some rumors that are flying around out there, I mean, we asked town council to get involved with this more than 2 weeks ago, I believe, did we not?
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I think that's all they had.
I wrote my very first letter to the editor a few weeks ago. I swore I'd never do that. I swore I'd never do it again. I wrote one today saying, I feel there are facts that are not out and they need to be out. And they're documented facts. And I said, you know what, somebody needs to know the real facts on this whole thing going back from where we started. 26 years, my predecessor Ray enforced this, I enforced it. I made the compromise. It's pretty, I know you guys are going through a tremendous amount yourselves, and I congratulate you for it, but I'll tell you, my name's 6 generations and 45 years of community service to this town, it really hurts. And do I need that stress this week? No. Under the circumstances, but I'm prepared to do what I gotta do.
Thank you, Bill.
You got a smile on your face.
I have. I'm trying, I just said doctor's orders, I'm supposed to be calm and collected, trying to, and I have full intentions of hopefully being very calm and collected to officiate next Thursday night. So, with good help from my assistant on Tuesday.
There are many legal aspects of this, details to this, that if you guys have further interest in knowing this evening, we would probably need to go into non-public for. If there's nothing else we want to discuss at this point in time, we can move on. And at the end of the meeting, after the first non-public session we have scheduled, if you want to schedule, if you want to go in to discuss any more, we can.
All right. Good. Thank you.
Brings us to old business. Still on old business, we have board policy, job descriptions, this Sue Chase and Shaw agreement to facilitate, and we have already, I believe, implemented the right to know implementation of the non-public session checklist form. So
That one can come off.
yeah, I think that one probably can.
And Shaw and
You
Chase?
were a little confused today when I asked about it, so.
Yeah, I was.
Did we actually formally accept it though? Or we just been using it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's our policy to use it now at this point in time. So eventually, I think when we do, and if we do, create, a formally written board policy, that will become part of that. So
That the form be used.
the form
Yeah,
be used
right.
as part of the board policy.
Or
That brings us back to public comment. Deb?
I have two. In discussing and I don't know if you can discuss it, but I'll ask a question. In discussing the abatement to the property owner's taxes, you mentioned there was court order. What does that mean?
We had an elderly exemption abatement that we had denied, that the people appealed to the Board of Tax and Appeals, and they went to that on February 7th, and they won their appeal, so now we're issuing the abatement.
And the next thing
And that abatement, if the court case, if people want to see it, is a public document. You can get that either from the Board of Tax and Land Appeal. We have copies of it here that people could review, but if they wanted a copy, you'd have to pay for copies done for it anyway.
The other question I have is with respect to the Ann Peterson letter. Do you know if Mr. Davis received a similar letter?
Received a similar letter?
Yes, complaining about going on the property without permission.
Did we receive a letter from?
No, did Bob Davis receive a similar letter from her?
Oh, from her? I have no idea.
Might be beneficial to check.
That's a good question.
Any further public comment?
Did you have any questions of me from that letter? I forgot to ask you that.
George, I didn't have any further questions for you in regard to that.
I had none. It just,
Thanks, George.
Is it possible, when like the police makes his report, to sit on the end of the table so we can hear it? I mean, that's why we come, is to hear what people have to say.
Right.
As opposed to try to, you read the minutes, but you don't get, they're quite adequate, but it would be easier to hear.
Almost soft-spoken.
yeah, he is.
He's hard to hear.
You know,
Same with Jerry.
Yeah.
He talks to us as well.
we had talked about that, not for any one particular person, but is this the most efficient setup for everybody to be able to follow along the meeting? And when someone's backs to you and they're projecting what they have to say at the wall, it's not. So,
I only thought if they said it.
right. And we talked about that. If there's just one person, that might be where we should be asking that one person to.
When we went to Madison for a meeting, they had a microphone, but I don't know if the
Yeah.
acoustics in here would accommodate that.
Yeah.
Well, I think they could if we were to do something about the acoustics in here. We've had the discussions about this in the past, and every year I've been on the Board of Selectmen, we had planned to look into it, get pricing for a sound system, and get pricing to put acoustic panels up to improve the acoustics of the room. And again, for the third year in a row, we didn't get anywhere on that. I think maybe something for the next Board of Selectmen to look into would be to do that. We probably have enough money in the maintenance of town buildings line item in the budget to purchase a sound system and acoustic panels to make the sound system work, but it probably would make a lot of sense to have drop-down microphones and some sort of acoustic stereo system in here to carry the noise out into the room. And first step in that process would be to get quotes from people to do that. So maybe we could put that under old business and have it there as a reminder to do.
You know who would probably be able to give us some professional advice on that is Sean Doucette.
Yeah, I've talked to Sean about it before. He probably could give us some advice about that.
Yeah. Put it on old business and eventually we'll get to it.
Anybody else?
I was handed 2 letters of interest for the Conservation Commission after the elections. I don't know if you want to deal with it tonight or just wait until after the elections and then see how many we need, but I just wanted you to know that there are 2 letters of interest to serve on that board.
Thanks, Philip.
We have one seat coming up, and I actually have to put a letter of interest in myself. It's my turn, so.
Probably for the next Selectmen's meeting, which will be the next Board of Selectmen, probably want to put on the agenda the seats that are up for reappointment, and then send out letters of interest, or send out a request for people to submit letters of interest, and get that process rolling. Thanks, Al. Anything else? I would entertain a motion to go into non-public pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, paragraph 2, section B, to discuss the hiring of a public employee.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Watch is gonna go broke.
Wow.
Finally getting this thing.
Good job.
You know, we have moved a few things off of the table.